Wednesday, but we will start to see some rain moving in from the southwest and turning windier from the southwest too later this week.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything, I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories. Right, folks, that was a spicy one, wasn't it?
With us four, plus a special guest.
Sometimes she has to stick her foot in it. Sometimes she has to say things as they are.
Sometimes I think we should keep the refugees and send the pensioners to Rwanda. Then we'd be in a much better state.
Well, Benjamin, that is...
The Saturday 5. Saturday nights from 8. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it is 11 o'clock. I'm Aaron Armstrong in the GB newsroom. The government is arranging an extra evacuation flight from Sudan tomorrow as a 72-hour extension to the ceasefire has been agreed by both rival military forces. British nationals hoping to leave are being told to get to the international airport in the eastern city of the Port of Sudan by midday, where earlier the first shipment of humanitarian aid arrived. British Navy ships have also docked in Port Sudan to assist the evacuation efforts. The Sudanese army and the RSF have accused each other of violating the current ceasefire, which expires at midnight. NHS services are preparing to operate with exceptionally low levels of staff as nurses begin a 28-hour walkout over pay. However, in an apparent U-turn, the Royal College of Nursing has confirmed exemptions are in place to provide emergency care after Great Ormond Street and other hospitals voiced serious concerns about patient safety. NHS England says staffing levels in some areas of the country will be exceptionally low, lower than on previous strike days. It will all end just before midnight tomorrow. The Health Secretary is hopeful the dispute, though, can be resolved when unions, ministers and NHS bosses meet later this week.
The Staff Council is due to meet on Tuesday. I'm cautiously optimistic that the Staff Council will agree to then vote in favour of the deal. But I think it's right to wait until Tuesday for the Staff Council to meet, and this strike is premature. I think it's disrespectful to the other trade unions. I think the RCN should have waited. They're a member of the Staff Council, they were part of the negotiations, and as I say, Pat Cullen herself recommended this deal to her members.
Liz Truss is disputing a bill relating to her use of a Grace in Favour country house while she was Foreign Secretary. The former Prime Minister has been asked to pay around £12,000 for costs incurred at the Chevening estate in Kent. It covers the period last summer when she was fighting the Conservative leadership campaign against Rishi Sunak. The bill was largely for hospitality, but also included some missing items, such as bathrobes. Ms Truss says it mostly relates to official government business rather than personal expenses. The man suspected of killing 5 of his neighbours, including an 8-year-old boy on Friday, could be anywhere by now, according to authorities in Texas. Police believe Francisco Oropesa attacked the family next door after being asked to stop firing a semi-automatic weapon in his garden. They've widened the search area to a 20-mile radius around the town of Cleveland to the north of Houston. The suspect, who's Mexican, is believed to have fled the United States. Thousands of ceremonial troops have been rehearsing for the King's coronation in the largest parade of military personnel since the funeral of Winston Churchill. An RAF base in Hampshire has been transformed into a life-size replica of the coronation procession route, as up to 7,000 troops from 40 nations fine-tuned their final preparations. The armed forces will accompany King Charles and Camilla, the Queen Consort, between Westminster Abbey and Buckingham Palace next Saturday. At TV, online, DAB and TuneIn Radio, this is GB News. Now, it's time for Headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Leo Kearse, and joining me tonight to look through tomorrow's front pages are the educational Steve N. Allen and the confrontational Lewis Schaefer. How are you both doing?
I'm not feeling my best.
Really? When are you ever feeling your best? What is your best?
My best is after the show and they don't cancel me.
Right, well...
relief.
Well, fingers crossed tonight, Lewis.
Yeah.
I'm feeling better than Lewis's best, and I'm quite ill, so that's not saying much.
Right, well, let's hope it's not contagious. Anyway, enough chit-chat. Let's move on and have a look at the front pages. The Daily Mail leads with 1 billion reasons to be cheerful. The Guardian has households missing out on £19 billion in benefits. The Telegraph has cancer nurses on strike for first time. The Express leads with shocking 1.3 million hit by state pension errors. The Mirror has wills, heirs to you both. The Daily Star has invasion of the fat rats. And those were your front pages. And let's look at those in a bit more detail, starting with The Guardian, Lewis.
This is The Guardian. It's big news. It's households missing out on £19 billion in benefits. And it's a typical Guardian article. It's like, let's try to get more money for people who I guess they deserve it. But it's people complain one way or the other. They either complain when they're giving out too much money, right? Or they complain when they're not getting any money. And it says that 1.3 million households are eligible but don't take up the universal credit.
I mean, the whole point of benefits is it's supposed to be a safety net that's there if you need it. And clearly, if people don't need it, they're not claiming it. I mean, the benefit system is complicated and not everybody who's eligible for something actually needs that to survive. So, you know, people might just be saying, well, I'm going to do the right thing and not claim that benefit.
Well, so are you saying that anyone who's got kids shouldn't claim child benefit if they don't need it? Because that happens a lot in the middle classes. The same people will be reading this going, I think it's disgraceful. People shouldn't be claiming these things. We'll be using some of that child benefit money for a holiday.
Child benefit isn't a benefit. It's misnamed. It's not a benefit. It's a bribe to encourage you to have children to reverse the population decline in Western Europe.
So it was brought in when it was brought in after population decline was an issue.
It's just a good idea. Child benefit, and I love how you focus on child benefits. Something that's means tested now, so people don't even get it. If you earn over a certain amount amount of money, then you just get it taxed to zero anyway.
I wasn't focusing on it for any other reason than it was just a counterpoint to the thing you just said. Like, a benefit should only be there. If you can get by without it, you shouldn't claim it. Then tell that to the child benefit people. That was just.
But the point about it, you're wrong about child benefit. It's not there to promote children. Child benefit historically, and you can look this up, is mad money, is giving money to women just in case their husbands don't give enough money to feed the child.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah. It's a good idea. It's a little bribe. It's a little, why can't the middle classes get a little taste of all that money they pay into government coffers? This is ridiculous. And the benefit system, I feel, is sort of broken. It's too complicated. So people who genuinely need benefits can't claim, and then people who don't need it but are good at working the benefits system can game lots of money out of it. And I know that from, I'm not just because I'm Scottish, but I have seen people, claiming lots of benefits. And The Guardian, in other articles, has said that only 0.6% of benefits claimants are fraudulent, which, if it's only 0.6% of benefits claimants are fraudulent, I must know every single one of them.
Yeah, but that's the concept. That's what they always say. They always say that only a small percentage is, and it's just a different way of looking at it. It's like the left say it's only 1 point, but the right say the whole thing is a scam.
Yeah.
So it's.
Why aren't we congratulating these people who can't be bothered to fill in the paperwork? This headline should be, bunch of people save us 19 billion. Thank you, people who don't fill in the forms.
I absolutely agree. And The Guardian should stop encouraging people to scrounge because the taxpayer can't afford it right now. Anyway, moving on, there's something about AI predicting cancer.
Yeah, it's getting better at identifying certain types of cancer. This should happen because new AI tool could allow quicker cancer diagnosis. Speed with cancer is exactly what you need. The fact that these algorithms get trained and they're better than humans at it, this is one of the few areas where AI will be good and it won't enslave us all. I mean, if even Elon Musk is terrified of AI, maybe we should worry about it. It is worth bearing in mind, though, there was a lovely story of AI that was trained to try and recognise skin cancer.
Yeah.
Had a problem because they showed it loads of pictures of normal moles and then skin cancer, and it worked out that if there was a ruler placed next to it, it was cancerous. Because all the images where it was cancerous for some reason had the scale thing in it, so we do have to be careful.
So never have your mole photograph with a ruler next to it and you'll be safe.
Yeah, if you put a ruler anywhere near you, you'll be dead within a week.
Amazing. Moving on, what have the Express got in the front cover, Steve? Or Lewis. Or whoever.
Whoever that is.
No, I've always liked listening to you. But shocking, 1.3 million hit by state pension errors. Wait a minute, isn't this people not claiming some money that would be from the welfare sector, and you're saying congratulations, well done, people? Because that's what you said for the last one.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I'm glad we got that.
No, but this is errors on the side of the actual pension system.
Yes, they're being underpaid.
Yeah.
Which still saves us
or they're being overcharged. In my case, because believe it or not, I'm of pension age, and I've lived in this country long enough to actually get a pension. I mean, this is the most generous country in the world to give Louis Schaefer a pension. and I didn't mention anything about the benefits because it was unseemly if it made it seem like I actually claimed benefits at one time.
You're claiming child benefit for a Tamagotchi.
Listen, I'm signing on in about 12 Scottish cities, so don't feel bad, Lewis.
And but I know for a fact, I've spoken. They're lovely people, the people in this, but it's the national insurance people and then the HMRC, and they're two separate organizations. I don't know how this
That's
thing
ridiculous,
works.
Isn't it?
It is ridiculous. And I call up the NI, and they say call them HMRC, and HMRC says call up the NI, and out of the blue I get a bill for £4,000. Yeah, it's like shocking, and I think, okay, it's £4,000, and then I call them back, and they say, oh, we're sorry, we owe you £74. So I don't want to criticize them. They're lovely. They're lovely, lovely.
They're eventually lovely. Anyway, moving on, tell us about the front cover of The Telegraph, Lewis.
Well, this is the story, the story every actual same thing is now cancer nurses on strike for the first time.
It's not the same story every week. It's the first time it's ever happened.
They're nurses. They're on strike over inflation, which nurses cause themselves by demanding we shut everything down and start printing money to pay for things. So I personally believe that we need nurses. I think we need about 10% of the doctors that are out there. Honestly.
So that is, that's a pretty hard line management of the NHS you're promoting there. I don't think, I've got to, just for balance, I've got to put it out there that perhaps not all inflation is directly by nurses.
Interesting point. Yeah. I'd go.
No,
along with
some of it is caused by doctors. It's not all
If we only had 10% of the number of doctors, most of that manpower of doctoring would be spent on you, from what I've heard. You keep them busy. You don't care about other people's doctors, just that one left. That's what you want.
Do I ask them to see me? They
Yes,
say we
you
need.
do.
I do.
Now your phone's going off.
My phone is going off. I thought I just
GP on the
I'm going to ask for you to be euthanised next time you see your doctor.
I'm sorry.
There's also a story about voter ID, Steve.
Yes, Tories fear activists will claim no ID to disrupt local elections. So this idea of having voter IDs going well, I mean, from all the stats, it looks like it's trying to solve a problem that's not a problem, because this form of solving it, turning up with ID, would stop voter impersonation, which is not the voter fraud that happens. It's so difficult to do anyway, because how do you know who's not going to turn up? How do you know where you need to go if you are that person? A handful of cases of voter impersonation could have happened. Other types of voter fraud might need looking into, but this whole system seems like it's not solving a problem that's worthwhile. And now it turns out you could turn up and say no ID and cause disruption. A problem that's been caused by having voter ID.
But I mean, you need ID just to get into a nightclub in Carlisle, you need ID. So surely if you're choosing the ruling government, you should also, have some ID.
They do this a lot in Europe, and it's a better system for them because no one fails to have ID because you have to have ID. Yeah. And it feels like that is a jigsaw piece that fits. If everyone has ID, then this is a fair enough scheme. But in a country where it's not that common for absolutely everyone to have ID, then you do end up slightly disenfranchising those.
There's a lot of illegal immigrants here. Anyway, the Daily Star must have something good in the front cover, Steve.
I thought I was going to...
Well, he's got the word fat in it, and I don't think they let you do that.
Oh, yeah, no, is this you, Lewis?
I don't know. To me, this is a non-story. Invasion of fat rats.
They're big boned.
Is that they're saying there are rats out there. They're getting fatter. They're living in people's houses. They're immune to being killed.
They're living in houses?
In houses.
What, just in the
everywhere.
Armchair? Helping themselves to the biscuits?
Yeah, they're going up and down the whole thing.
How do they afford the rents?
And they have genetic resistance to anticoagulants. This isn't historical.
So you can't even get them to coagulate?
No.
This is the problem about if you try and use antibiotics, you get bacteria resistant to it. You try and poison rats, you get rats that are poison-proof.
Right.
This is why we shouldn't be shooting badgers, because in the future, bulletproof badgers.
OK, that's you heard it here first on GB News, bulletproof badgers. Right, that's the front page is done. Coming up, the three of us will be doing some light probing, a bit of jabbing, and some enthusiastic and not at all state-compelled vowing. See you in a couple of minutes. Don't go away.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nana, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate. Both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News. The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway,
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Saturday nights on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today.
Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan Tonight.
Saturday nights on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
hello, I'm Leo Kearson. Welcome back to Headliners. Next to me are Lewis Schaefer and Steve N. Allen. And let's kick off with Monday's Telegraph and more on the Tavistock Centre debacle, Steve.
Yep, so Tavistock Gender Clinic threatened with court action by Watchdog. The headline almost promises more than the story delivers. This is court action if they don't follow through on a Freedom of Information request, which they have failed to do so far, saying that they don't actually have the minutes and the emails. And if they fail to do so, they could face a fine. So I'm not sure that this will end up in a impressive revealing of anything, because if you don't want the information coming out, you would find a way of paying the fine. I think an interesting part of it, two things are interesting in the story. One is, they accidentally leaked emails in the past anyway, so I guess someone's kept some emails. They didn't even keep them to themselves, but there's a quote from the spokesperson of the Trust at the end that says, "We've noted this recent decision and are proactively working towards supplying the relevant data."
Yeah.
I thought you didn't have it. How are you
You didn't. I mean, it seems, and there's certainly been some accusations that they're hiding, they're suppressing the meetings and the minutes and the emails between mermaids and the Tavistock Centre's doctors, because they know that would reveal that they're pushing this gender affirming, this ideologically driven idea that, you know, any child that presents with gender dysphoria, the solution is transitioning them.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, I mean, from my point of view, I think the Tavistock Centre is one of the scariest places on earth. You go in there, your mother brings her child in there, and the child does not come out. So it's a tragedy. But I heard something very interesting. I heard that the number of children presenting with food and eating disorders has basically plummeted. All the other forms. Have you heard this?
Yeah. So the chart that shows levels of anorexia and bulimia in teenage girls it's dropped to virtually zero compared to what it was, and it's been replaced by gender dysphoria, by transitioning as a way of teenage girls to sort of have ownership over their body, desexualize their body, and stop their body developing. So it's interesting that that suggests that, you know, a portion of these children, a significant portion, may not be genuinely gender dysphoric. They're caught up in this sort of social mania.
Yeah,
I was going to say, what I would say about this story is that regardless of which side of that story you're on, you should be in favour of information coming out, because if there's no harm in the info, let's get it out there. You shouldn't be hiding from a Freedom of Information Act request, regardless of where you stand on the spectrum of debate.
I couldn't agree more. And let's go to Monday's Telegraph, and the SNP's woes deepen as police are investigating money possibly nicked from dead people, Lewis.
Yeah, well, this is a Leo Kerr story. It's about the SNP, which I know nothing about. And it's that there's a police probe about £400,000 worth of bequests from people who have died in their estates left to the SNP, and they went, and what happened is they went back to the they were left to promote the Scottish version of Brexit.
Yeah, Scottish independence.
Scottish independence, and they found that there was nothing in the account, which means that possibly somebody spent the money that they didn't deserve.
Well, yeah, and the issue for the SNP was, they raised all this money for a second independence referendum. That didn't happen, and then some people were like, well, where's this money we gave you for the second independence referendum? And, they started asking questions and people got very angry. I mean, obviously, if it's money left in wills, there's nobody there to say, where's the money I left you in my will? What have you spent it on? Did you spend it on motorhomes?
Yeah, well, I mean, I hope it's buried in a garden. Otherwise, that tent was just all tease and no deliver. If they were digging up garden stuff, you want it just to be a bag of cash. Yeah. I mean, in their defence, this would be Scottish pounds, so harder to spend down south. But there was a bit in the story where it says also they're looking at burner phones, looking for burner, the burner SIM cards. Yeah. It's the coolest thing I've ever read in politics.
Yeah, and it's the only cool thing about the SNP. The fact that they're living slightly like a South London drug dealer is the only slightly credible thing about them. Anyway, the Mirror now, and Liz Truss is in trouble for costing the taxpayer 12 grand. I think that's a bit of an undercount, Steve.
Yeah, this is an extra. Toss it on a bigger bill. Liz Truss hit by 12 grand bill for evening parties, including lost bathrobes. And it's like nicking the towels on the way out of a hotel. So anyway, the Cabinet Office objected to the idea that taxpayers should be footing the bill. And you think, how did she run up this? She was only in the job for like 3 days. But this is the job before. This Chevening, a lovely place in Kent, is the home that's used by the Foreign Secretary, which she then used, and she has to cough up the money for food and wine because they were having meetings there. But the meetings weren't state work, they were political, so you shouldn't be using it. It should be used to house state business.
Right, yeah.
So she shouldn't be using it for that. She could just pay this bill out of the £115,000 a year she's entitled to for being a PM for about 3 seconds. So she's still going to be on the up out of it. It's not as if this bill is going to absolutely bankrupt her.
Or if it's political, shouldn't the party pay?
Yeah, they could pay for it. The Cabinet Office was told by staff that the House had lost toweling robes, even slippers. At the very least, she deserves a bad review on Airbnb.
Well, she said, show me the bill. And I think there should be an itemized bill if it is this way. We don't know what the true story is. I'm going to tell you something. It just could be a smear piece on Liz Truss. She's like the whipping girl of this. I take her side. It was very interesting to read this, that she has the primary use of this estate, right? But other people can use the estate first before it gets used for other purposes. And one of those people is the American ambassador.
Interesting. And they found traces of cocaine at this, I think it was at this property, which is being blamed on Liz Truss. But I mean, surely it's reassuring to know that our political leaders are alert.
Or the fact that they're youthful.
Do you think more confidence is what she needed?
Anyway, The Guardian now, and doctors want to give kids injections to help them transition, but this time it's to transition from fat to thin, Lewis.
Well, you can make a comparison there. This is children could be prescribed weight loss jabs on the NHS. This is for Wegovy or semaglutide, Ozempic. There's a million different names for these things. And what it is...
They all sound like Ukrainian basketball players.
You know what? Well, those people were taking growth, like they're so... I don't know, they'll make an analogy about them being... All right.
Anyway, the way you pronounce those, your GP wants to see you tomorrow.
Anyway, you know what? Actually, it could be recommended. It costs £1,000 a month.
A month?
A month.
Isn't it cheaper to just eat less cakes?
Yeah, it is. And I knew you were going to go there. But the fact is these are fat people. There's a reason why people are fat. They don't want to be fat. And they're fat because the food, sugar, is so addictive. It's in such plentiful supplies that it makes people fat. But at £1,000 a month, with 5 million people with type 2 diabetes, who this drug is meant to help.
So will this save us money in the long run?
No, because it will cost £60 billion a year.
What? £60 billion a year? Just to stop kids being fat?
Do 5 million times 12.
Take this all the time then, isn't it? Just you take it to lose the weight and then you stop.
It's a lot like testosterone. Once you take it, you've got to take it forever.
I've not stopped.
So you get super fat if you stop taking it.
Yes,
that's dangerous. And the statistics here are incredible. I mean, 23% of 10 and 11-year-olds are obese. With a further almost 15% classes overweight. So almost half of British kids are fatties.
The good news would be that it's already available for 12 to 17-year-olds in America. So how about we just let them do it for a while and see if there's any side effects? Very much like we're doing with legal cannabis. Yeah. Just use them as the test place.
It's brand new. But the most important thing to remember is you cannot, and you are wrong about this, you can't blame people for being fat themselves.
It's their fault.
It is not their fault.
It's their fault. Everybody's got willpower. They need an injection of willpower. Anyway, The Express now, and it's not just Meghan who's upset at Charles's coronation plans, Lewis.
Is this, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we skipped the story. Anyway, Charles, a very interesting thing, because according to The Express, Charles's request for public allegiance branded, quote, offensive and tone-deaf in a scathing rant by the people who are head of Republic, who are the anti-monarchy thing. And it's an absolute tragedy. He's not demanding that everybody vow allegiance at the threat of death, which is what used to happen. So there's an improvement in this. There's no swords involved. On the other hand, this king, I shouldn't be talking about this because I don't like the monarchy because I'm an American and America doesn't have monarchies. We don't think we need it.
But I still think you've got our king.
Yeah. Your king?
Yeah. I still
a lot of
claim over your land.
Yeah. You go fight for that. Anyway, it's a tragedy because that poor King Charles, he wants to be loved and respected and king so much, and it's so un-British.
But you don't get that by getting everyone to pledge allegiance to you sat at home.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right, it's not a demand, so I very much won't be doing, because I hate it when TV shows do, like, play along at home stuff. It's just a gimmick. But you're right, you could not do it. But I'm normally not a royalist type person, but I think right now would be the wrong time to abolish it because we'd have to replace it with some sort of elected system. And look at what the nation's like. We've never been more tribal and split. If we had to vote for something else, we'd rip ourselves apart. So actually, he's doing a good job.
And you know something? I agree with you, Steve. I agree with you. As a foreigner in this country who does not like the monarchy, I think the way the system is in this country, you need a monarchy right now.
Okay, we need a king. We've heard it here from an American, from an outside perspective. That's what we need.
The rest of the political system is so substandard.
Oh, really? Okay.
You'll be back.
Okay. Moving on, we've got the Daily Mail, and regarding transgender pupils in sports, there's some common sense in the education system, Steve.
Transgender pupils are to be banned from competing in PE lessons against pupils of the opposite biological sex. There's some new government plans. I mean, you could make the case. You could easily make the case that women's rights in sport should be defended and protected, and you could do it in a way that I'm sure you could get most people to agree with, other than just some people who really wouldn't want to listen to anything. But also, you could make this case by shouting, yeah, but they're all men, and then all of a sudden you're in a row rather than talking about something which I'm sure you could get people to agree with. The only question I couldn't work out, I read the whole article trying to work out what age group we're talking about, because the big debate in sport is that if a man's gone through puberty, you get an advantage. If no one's gone through puberty yet, then it feels that advantage probably isn't quite as good as they expect.
But I think, boys are larger and stronger than girls, from quite a young age. And, I think if you've got a 15-year-old daughter who's going to be out there playing rugby, do you really want them to be playing against, some testosterone raging?
Yes, at that age. And I think you didn't listen to what Steve's point was, which is a very good point, which is basically you take a 10-year-old girl and a 10-year-old boy, there's probably a chance that a 10-year-old girl is stronger than the 10-year-old boy.
That's an absolute nonsense. There have already been injuries in school sport.
Okay, 9-year-old boys.
No, there have already been injuries.
Okay, 8-year-old boys.
No, but I mean, what are you saying? Oh, do it to a certain point? I mean,
that's the last time I defend this guy. See what I do when I agree with him.
It's not easy. It's not easy.
Let me just say this. This proves, as I said before, the dysfunction of the British political system is that the state.
Can we talk about this story instead of...
Yeah, the state is involved in telling these schools. If a school...
Well, of course, the state schools.
Yes.
Well, why can't each individual school decide? Have a vote of the Board of Governors.
Well, and some of them get to vote that, you can have a hulking 24-stone, muscly guys. Just I'm a woman, and then goes in and, crushes skulls.
If you're 24 stone as a 9-year-old, then where's the other story about that injection? Something needs to be fixed, and it's not testosterone.
No, there's obvious biological differences between males and females, and I think when it comes to sport, it's absolutely fine for some burly bloke to identify as a woman or whatever, but you can't identify as a female rugby player. There's sensible lines that have to be drawn. This seems to be a bit of...
The question is the age. 7 years old? I've seen it. You've never had a 7-year-old kid. The girls are just as strong, maybe as the boys.
Well, that sounds quite sinister, to be honest, Lewis. Anyway, I think we need some adverts now to fill the dark void that resides at the heart of us all. But coming up after, we've got hoodies are cancelled, why prisoners love extremist pamphlets, and a shoplifter baldly goes into a hairdresser's. See you there.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories. Right, folks, that was a spicy one, wasn't it?
With us four, plus a special guest.
Sometimes she has to stick her foot in it. Sometimes she has to say things as they are.
Sometimes I think we should keep the refugees and send the pensioners to Rwanda. Then we'd be in a much better state.
Well, Benjamin, that is...
The Saturday 5. Saturday nights from 8. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Is
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's get straight back into it. And we're talking about hoodies. David Cameron wanted to hug them, but it's safe to say that not everyone loves them, Steve.
Stupid is the first word of this headline, but uproar in Romford as hoodies banned in the shopping areas. I declare an interest here. I do a radio show in Romford, so I know the shopping centre that they're talking about. A little loophole at the end on this one, but they're bringing in a new rule that you can't wear your hoodie in an up position, erect. You also can't wear ski masks. Because it says in the article that the only people wearing ski masks are people up to trouble or people who are about to really go on about their holidays. Either way, ban them from the Liberty Shopping Centre. This new rule, it's not gone down well with some, saying that it's draconian to force people to wear certain things. You can still wear religious clothing, so put a cross on the hoodie and just get away with it. Yeah, this is in the Liberty Shopping Centre, which merges straight into the Mercury Shopping Centre, which I don't think has the rule. So you can just sneak in and out and get away with it.
So it'll be interesting to see if the Mercury Shopping Centre sees a spike in crime. But they talk about a lot of crime in the article, Lewis.
Yeah, but they don't mention the most important thing is masks. These kids could wear masks, like COVID masks, and that's totally a sign of mental instability and cognitive dysfunction.
Well, I think the face masks are worn by kids to hide their identity when they're committing. We've seen it with Antifa, with various people causing public disturbances and disruptions and committing crime. They wear the face mask because there's no way a policeman can tell you not to. After police spend so many months saying you've got to stick it on, they can't then tell you to take it off.
No, I think it's just this is a We Hate Kids article.
Yeah, and we do hate kids.
So many people identify as Jedi, and I think wearing a hood up is religious wear for Jedi. So maybe that's the loophole.
OK, well, The Telegraph now with a bald shoplifter's harebrained scheme to dodge the cops after forgetting to pay for some shampoo. Lewis.
I personally think this story is evil that it was given to me with my magnificent hair.
Yeah.
And which I have.
You paid for it. You might as well enjoy it.
I didn't have to pay for it. It's actually inherited. I've got the genetic. I did a genetic test, and I've got an 11 times greater chance.
I love this inane rambling. Can you tell us what the story is, Lewis?
Well, this story is not the most intelligent.
Well, just tell us what it is.
It's wanted bald man caught because he queued for a haircut. He had stolen 16 bottles of hair product. So that's also weird. Okay. And
obviously to sell in the pub.
No,
to sell in the barbers.
In the barber.
Went straight there.
No, he's hiding. He was being chased by the police and he hid in the barbers, as I understand.
I don't think so. I think he ran in there to sell it to the barber shop.
Really?
Yes. I think Steve's going to agree with me.
Yeah, he doesn't say it in the story, but I think we've cracked the case.
Yeah.
Why would this guy, a bald gentleman, as we like to be called, ran straight into a barber's? I don't think he was trying to hide, because it's a stupid place to hide, because you stick out like a big shiny head. The only way he could get away with it is if he burst out the front door going, I told you to only take an inch off. That's the only way he could have pretended he went in there for a good reason.
Or maybe if he's got a good solicitor, he could say, I love having really soft pubic hair, so that's why I stole the shampoo. Anyway, the Mirror now, and British jails are now hotbeds of Islamic radicalisation, but there's a radical plan to stop them, Steve.
They're banning terrorists stockpiling extremist text by capping how much weight of books. This is that they can't be bothered to check their books. They're just going to weigh them, and if you got over a certain amount, then no, you can't have more than it was like 15 kilograms. If only someone would have invented like a Kindle that ruins this plan. Darn it! But yeah, they're trying to stamp out all of these texts that they can hide in other books, and you'd have to go through a ton of books to try and find them.
I mean, 15 kilos of Islamic radicalisation literature sounds like quite a lot of Islamic radicalisation.
But that's the thing. It's one book of radicalisation. The rest of Bump, just Mills and Boon erotic fiction, I imagine. And then that one book. That we should actually use this the other way around. Prevent should be sending in books hidden in their massive stash about how great it is to not be a terrorist.
Yeah, well, maybe Mills and Boon. Maybe if they actually, switch over to Mills and Boon, they'll see, hey, maybe Western liberal democracy is okay and we shouldn't try and destroy it.
Yeah, maybe if they had read more books when they were out of prison, they wouldn't be in prison.
That's true. That's true, but we are seeing a problem with Islamic radicalisation in prisons. I mean, there are 43,000 people on on intelligence watch lists, and the vast majority are Islamic extremists.
Must be easier to watch if they're in prison, though.
Yeah, and then but when they're arrested and put in prison, it's not stopping the problem. It's actually they're radicalising more people and forming gangs in prison.
Yeah, I am not going to comment on this.
Okay, yeah, somebody likes having his genitalia where they are. Anyway, the Mail now, and a new generation is rediscovering the joy of answer phone messages, Lewis.
I find this interesting because I have noticed an increase in this. Just why people, according to the Daily Mail, just why are people sending more and more voice notes? Gen Z says telephone calls are microaggressions and sending an audio clip is more personal than a text. And I agree with that totally because there's nothing more irritating. I've called up people and they go, why are you calling me? Did I do something wrong? Is something bad? It's really bad to get a phone call.
You think that's because of the nature of phone calls and not because they're like,
People like me. People like me. I know I pretend that I'm unlikable, but people do. Anyway, I'm not likable. But at the end of the day, I think an audio clip is way more personal than a text message. Usually I would send, if I want to speak to somebody on the phone, I'd text message, Steve, are you free? right? But this is actually insisting that someone listens to a minute of that
Well,
voice.
that's the thing with voicemails. I mean, Steve, don't you see when somebody sends a voice note on WhatsApp, I'm like, oh, no, I've got to listen to your 5-minute voice note. Why didn't you just put this in a text and I could have ignored it in a different manner?
But at least you just glance at the text, because we've both got kids of around the same age. If I've just got him down to sleep and then someone wants me to listen to a 5-minute note, no! And also, I'll tell you what else I hate about WhatsApp. People should stop doing this. When they just send a message for every little half thought that they've got. Instead of giving me a paragraph, they've got the carriage return in the phones these days. Ping, and then another ping, because they've done an emoji. Oh, every single time your phone just makes all those noises. Right.
Like Lewis's did earlier in the show.
Do you know what? I'm with Steve on this. I don't know what's happening tonight.
I'm rational.
Yeah.
What's happening?
OK, well, we've got the Times next with a story that seems to be overly optimistic about the prospects of British weather, Steve.
Should we be wearing sunscreen 6 months a year? Experts say yes, they make a good case about how we should, that if the UV factor is over 3 or 4, so even if it's early in the year, it's a cloudy day, you should be wearing it. Let's cut to the chase. We should, but we won't. Because it's a bit clammy and no one wants extra faff, and we're also not a nation that's filled with people making the healthy choice. We're not going to do this. We're not. I'm sure we should, but we're not.
And the thing about this story is this is a totally evil story because... Number one, I'm going to say a few things. You'll have to look it up yourself. It's totally discounted by the mainstream medical authority. But the sun
I'd just like to apologise to Ofcom in advance of what Lewis is going to say.
The sun, in this story, it said there were two of the cases that they said about people who had skin cancer. One was on their person's leg, another was on their stomach. The fact is, if it is sun, it would be on the face, it'd be on the shoulders, it wouldn't be on the stomach. Is the thing that I believe it's excess, it's eating, it's what we're eating. We're eating too many toxic seed oils, so our bodies are being made. That's why the number of people who have skin cancer is going up.
So skin cancer is caused by cereal?
It's caused by high-carb diets, plus us eating toxic seed oils.
So are you asserting that there is no link between UV exposure and damage to the DNA in your skin?
I am saying if you...
No, it's
yes, but I'm saying if you raise your tan gradually, okay, which is what you should do, you will not get... And there are different kinds of skin cancer.
Your skin will develop the protective...
Will develop.
It's a bit like an SPF of about 4.5 if you got a tan. So it's not like you give yourself that much of an advantage.
Yeah.
And the second thing is that I think they've done tests, and you'll have to check this out. This is one guy, if you listen to me, you're insane. I might be right. I might be right. I saw a YouTube video.
Oh, well, I take it all back.
I saw a YouTube video which says, basically, that melanoma is not caused by the sun.
Well, I don't know. My experience would go counter to that because performing in Australia, you see in the audience, before you're waiting to go on stage, you can see everybody's ears, and people have got little nicks. They call it the shark bite out of the ears, and that's from the ear. Like when people put on sunblock, they just put it on their faces. They forget the ears, and then they get the melanomas on the ears, and I don't think it's caused by eating seed oil. Also, you were eating what was it, Fruit Loops or something? Yeah, that came in. That wasn't raw meat. And that sugar.
Wasn't.
Yes, it was.
That mole has got bigger.
No, it wasn't.
And you had...
no, I wasn't.
It was Cheerios. It was something. It was some sort of round breakfast.
All right,
cereal.
so maybe I'm wrong.
I think you're
maybe I'm wrong.
You're like the woman. You're the woman who said that you can live off cryonic air.
Go to my whatchamacallit site, at Lewis Schaefer, my Twitter
Your
site.
lifestyle brand.
And I will post the YouTube video.
Okay, well, I'm drawing this to a close. Don't take any health advice from Lewis Schaefer or any of us, to be honest. We've run out of time for this section, but don't go anywhere just yet, as after the break, we're going to be talking about the Albanian Prime Minister having a pop at Britain, exploring whatever delicate dumping is, and Lewis's specialist subject, meat-based diets. See you in a couple of minutes.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
First and foremost, I'm a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m, and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Hello, I'm Calvin Robinson. Do not miss my Common Sense Crusade Saturdays at 7 p.m. Join me for some in-depth discussions on faith. Is that not the start of the slippery slope?
It's very much so.
And the big moral questions of the day. I'm baffled.
You've got some nerve.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got the Daily Mail now, and I tried a plant-based diet. I lost 7 kilos, all from my personality. Now scientists are saying we need to eat meat. Over to our resident carnivore, Lewis.
Where'd my story go? I lost my story. Oh, here it is. Sorry.
Eating meat can make you more organised.
I told you I was having the worst day ever. This is the Daily Mail, which now prints, meat is crucial for human health, scientists say, as they call for an end to zealotry pushing vegetarian vegan diets. This is in the Daily Mail. And if this is in the Daily Mail pushing meat, I am going to become a vegan. I'm going to stop eating. Why? Because it's in the Daily Mail. Because you can't believe
what have you got against the Daily Mail? No, it's done some amazing investigative reporting, such as finding out this story, which is reported in a different newspaper yesterday, and running it today.
Because they got away with it. But I'm going to tell you something before I let Steve poo-poo it. You can't trust anything in any of these newspapers. Sorry.
No, I think this is absolutely right. This is a consortium of top scientists, and they've come to the conclusion, which we all knew all along, a vegan diet, a plant-based diet, actually isn't that good for you, and there are a lot of nutrients that you can only get from meat.
Well, they actually say it's hard to replace them. It's hard to find another source. So they're not saying it's impossible, but you'd really have to be on it to try and find good sources of all the things you wouldn't get, and who's that good at doing anything these days? I think the deeper story here is that Louis Schaefer is such a good contrarian that after being the most meat-based talker for ages, you're willing to flip.
4 years. 4 years of being a carnivore.
And I remember I once accused you of being a contrarian, and you said, no, I'm not, and it felt so good.
Well, I actually...
Isn't that what a contrarian would say, though?
Exactly.
I actually believe in meat. I believe in meat. And I think, and I've read and I've heard there are 15 nutrients that are not in a plant-based diet that they have to actually go out of your way to get. Not
essential essential amino acids.
The quick question would be, though, how do they get produced then? Because all the animals start off on the food chain eating plants.
They've got a different biology. They can produce those things. I don't know. I just think if vegan food was right for us, it would taste better. And why are they always trying to make vegan food taste like meat? Nobody's getting like a T-bone steak and trying to make it taste like broccoli. Anyway, moving on. We've got The Independent, and the Albanian Prime Minister is bad-mouthing the UK. You going to let him do that, Steve?
Yeah, he's saying that Britain is in such a bad place. This is Eddie Rama. And over channel migration crisis, that the government are having some kind of nervous breakdown about immigration. I mean, true. But also, it is a problem that it's a situation that needs dealing with. But also, as a nation, we've gone from a couple of elections ago. You couldn't say immigration. No politician were ever talking about it. Now you can't get a politician to not talk about immigration. You blame them something to do with not buying enough business cards. They'll somehow manage to swing it around and keep us all busy rowing about immigration. I know I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. This situation would be partially fixed if the government did the job of a government and actually processed the claims, instead of just letting them pile up, doing 1% of the claims and then going, look at the cost of the hotels. Yes, it's your fault too for not processing.
No, that is so absolutely ridiculous. Because even if they process the claims, there'd still be hundreds of thousands of people on Britain's soil.
It would just encourage more people to come. I mean, the problem is that we've got a system that's set up for genuine refugees and not for just working-age Albanian men who want to come to Britain.
But knowing that you've got a system where you probably won't even be processed also encourages people to come, so you won't get to know.
What, that they're going to be stuck in some lousy barge?
Well, the argument would be you put up in a hotel and given money to live off.
Yeah, well, that's
the argument. And look, we're doing it now. We're having the argument instead of blaming the government for not doing a government's job.
I think the issue is that there's much more highly visible illegal immigration in the cross-channel boats, and that's something that's a fairly new phenomenon, and it has to be sorted out. Anyway, moving on, we've got the Mail now, and Lewis, you're possibly tying the knot with your delightful girlfriend, who I know is a big fan of the show. This next story tells you how you could do it. Are you angry?
Whoops.
Is that...
Did she know you eat Fruit Loops?
No, because when you talk like that, I got like girl fans.
Oh, have you got?
They don't know. They don't know that I'm in a committed relationship.
Have I just blown things up with your side pieces?
Yeah, you've destroyed. Not just that, you've destroyed my whole. That I've been ingrained. People now know that.
Our phone's going to ring again.
Okay. All right, so it says, according to the Daily Mail, planning to propose etiquette guide explains how to pop the question in the 21st century, and asking for future father-in-laws permission is in the past. You can't do it. And this is Debrett's, which is Debrett's Handbook Coronation Edition, which is quite poppy. I guess it's the main thing. And it talks about popping the question, which, of course, is ridiculous because no one's getting married. So I don't even know why that needs to be included, number one. Number two, you'd have to be insane for a man to get married. You're going to lose.
Can you tell us the ways they suggest popping the question?
They say that you don't need to pop the question. You should ask the woman should pop the question. That both parents and the bridegroom should be the first to hear about the engagement. But everybody else, they can know through social media. So basically, you don't need to send out cards or anything to people.
Really?
Oh, that picture of the ring. Oh, if I get to see another one of those. She said, yeah.
Do people send you a lot of pictures of their ring? Anyway,
at the end of the day, number one, don't get married.
All right, well, if things don't work out, as suggesting they don't, the Mail has some tips on how to sneakily break up, Steve.
Delicate dumping is the new toxic breakup, apparently, and I so disagree. So this relationship expert says that delicate dumping is where you're technically still committed, but they stop putting in the effort. Marriage. In the hopes that the person will dump them first. And this is not a toxic thing. I was the king of this in my 20s. This was so good. That way you don't have to have a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
And then when I was in my, late 30s, I finally did a straightforward leaving of someone.
Yeah.
And she made my life hell at work. Until eventually I sent a message implying that, I've made a big mistake and is there any hope for us? So that she could say, I've moved on. And then she stopped bullying me. So always delicate dump.
Yes, I totally agree with Steve on this, totally, which is you can never break up with a woman. You can never. You got to make them break up with you. And so in other words, don't get together with women. They're dangerous.
There's a quote which I always like that says, if
Yeah.
someone can't handle the truth or respond to the truth properly, they should expect to be lied to. The only problem with that is it's a quote by Machiavelli, and I probably didn't know what to have that as a tattoo.
I see. OK, well, the show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Monday's front pages. The Daily Mail has 1 billion reasons to be cheerful. The Guardian has households missing out on £19 billion in benefits. The Telegraph has cancer nurses on strike for first time. The Express leads with shocking 1.3 million hit by state pension errors. The Mirror has wills, heirs to you both. Finally, the Daily Star has invasion of the fat rats, and that's all we have time for. Thank you so much to my guests, Lewis Schaefer and Stephen Allen. And Lewis will be back tomorrow with Simon Evans and the big dog himself, Nick Dixon. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for The Breakfast Show, coming up just after this. And I hope you have a fantastic bank holiday Monday, and I'll catch you on Tuesday. I've been Leo Kearse. Good night. Bye.
Can you not mention my girl?
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's